Morning, Magic fans. Happy Monday to you. It's another week. Time for some more videos. Today's video is being done on a old school championships playmat from GP Vegas 2018. It looks like an Arabian Nights booster pack wrapper. That's because today's video is going to take a look at a complete set of Arabian Nights Magic cards that were printed in 1993 and signed some point by the artists up until this year. So there's a empty booster pack wrapper from Arabian Nights. Matches the playmat. This was the first expansion of Magic the Gathering cards printed by Wizards of the Coast in 1993. They came 8 cards to a pack, 60 packs to a box. There were 78 cards in the set. The 14 of the common cards had 2 printings, one with a darker colorless mana symbol and one with a lighter colorless mana symbol. So some set collectors collect all 78 cards plus the extra set of 14 commons. So we'll go through those too. It was based on Arabian Nights, the 1001 Arabian Nights. So a lot of the mythology is captured in the artwork of this set, and some of the functionality too matches the stories. Obviously Aladdin and Alibaba are 2 of the heroes in that story, healers or villains, and the mythology is captured in this set. So we'll take a look at the cards. I'll show you some of the differences in the signatures and some of the cards themselves. Hopefully this information is useful to set collectors and anyone interested in the Arabian Nights set. Just sit back, relax, enjoy some vintage Magic cards from '93. So we've got Abu Jafar is the first card in the set. It was signed by Ken Meyer Jr. in 2013. He typically likes to sign the date after his signature, so you'll see his name, initials, and then the year. Aladdin, one of the key cards in this set by Julie Barrow. She just has a simple signature. She also signed this. Alibaba creature card. We have an Aladdin's lamp to go with Aladdin. This one's signed by Mark Tedin. Some beautiful artwork. It costs 10 colorless mana to play. And then Aladdin's ring. This one was signed by Dan Frazier. This is, I would call it his full signature. Daniel R. Frazier with the fine point Sharpie. Alibaba. Ali from Cairo, signed by Mark Poole. Nice tight Sharpie signature on Ali from Cairo. Army of Allah. These are the 2 first commons that have the light and the dark variation. You can see that's the dark mana symbol, the light mana symbol. Otherwise, it's the same card, signed by Brian Snowdy. He has a long and a short signature. These are 2 examples of his long signature. Usually like puts a smiley face on there. So that's Brian Snowdy's Army of Allah. The biggest challenge for this set is the 3 powerful cards, the Bazaar of Baghdad, Juzam Djinn, and Library of Alexandria. This one, I think it was a PSA graded, so I saved the label if I cracked it out, but this Bazaar of Baghdad was a near mint 7, and so it's a very nice copy of Bazaar of Baghdad, as you can see. And it's signed by the artist Jeff Menges in his full signature on the front. A very nice card. Probably one of the key cards in the set, especially if you're gonna get one signed. That's the Bazaar. We have Bird Maiden, signed by Kaja Foglio. This has the dark and the light mana symbols. Her signature is in a fine Sharpie down there. I like it when they match, you know, the two versions of the art and the signature matches. So I try to collect as many matching signatures on those as possible. This is a bottle of Suleiman, signed by the artist Jesper Meerfors, who was the art director for Wizards back in the 93s. He signed this card in 1997, so this is sort of a vintage signature on that card. We have a Brass Man signed by the late Christopher Rush. This is a very nice example of his Sharpie signature. Then we have a camel to go with the Arabian Nights desert theme. This one is signed by Sandra Everingham and is a common card, but it's very nice. We have City in a Bottle, which is very useful and played in Old School. It exiles cards that are printed in Arabian Nights. So this one was signed by Drew Tucker in a blue Sharpie. And then we have City of Brass next to City in a Bottle. This one's signed also on the bottom here in black Sharpie by Mark Tedden. Very good land. We also have Kumbaj Witches signed by Kaja Foglio. Cyclone by Mark Tedden. A Dancing Scimitar by Anson Maddox. The scimitar is actually the mana symbol, or the scimitar is the expansion symbol that they use for Arabian Nights. So Arabian Nights cards have this little scimitar on their card. A Dan signed by Drew Tucker. Desert by Jesper Meerfors. This one has a variation known as the Mirage Campfire Desert. That has a little print dot by this little pyramid in the back. So some serious set collectors like to collect both copies of Desert. This one was signed by Jesper Meerfors in 2018, probably at around GP Minnesota, and then this one was signed more recently, Jesper Meerfors 2022. So I have both of those there. We have Desert Nomads, signed by Christopher Rush. Desert Twister, signed by Susan Van Camp. She's hard to find. She doesn't sign very much anymore. This one is in gold paint pen. This one was previously graded by JSA Beckett, who certified the autographs as well. So this was signed by Susan Van Camp. The card received a 9, the signature received a 10, and I took it out of the BGS holder, kept it in the BGS sleeve, put a little sleeve behind it, white sleeve to show the card. This is a Diamond Valley, signed by Brian Snowdy in 2013. So this is his shorter signature where he just puts his initials, BS, and then the date above the squiggly line. We have a Drop of Honey, which is a really popular card. This one was signed by Anson in an orange paint pen to match the artwork. So if you look carefully, it's signed down at the bottom here with this orange pen. That's to match the artwork, which I thought was pretty cool. He did that for me in person at a GP. We have a couple Damian Willick signatures. He did Ebony Horse, El Hajjaj, thinner, thicker signature. You can see the variations there. Elephant Graveyard by Rob Alexander. He signed the Alpha Taiga in my previous video. We have 2 Urg Raiders by Damian Willick. The dark mana symbol and the light mana symbol, you can see those two. And then these signatures match, which is pretty cool that we have matching signatures on variant cards. Ernum de Jin, also known as Ernie. I think is an anagram of Herman, which was a friend of Richard Garfield's. This one was signed by Ken Meyer Jr. in 1995 in a very fine red marker. So a vintage signature on a vintage card is pretty cool. Eye for an Eye, Mark Poole. We have 2 fish liver oils signed by Anson Maddox. Probably at the same time. We have a dark mana symbol, the light mana symbol variant. The fish liver oil. This card inspired the Fish Liver Cup tournament. We have a Flying Carpet signed by Mark Tedden. We have a Flying Men signed by the late Chris Rush in silver Sharpie. That's my only copy in silver, so I think that's really special. We have a Gazvan Ogre signed by Jesper Meerfors in 2011. 2 giant tortoises signed by Kaja Foglio. Dark and light variants of the giant tortoises. I believe the lighter versions is harder to find. There's probably fewer of them. So if you're trying to collect a full set, the darker variant is going to be easier to find. Lighter variant is a little bit harder. Guardian Beast was one of my favorite cards to play with. It protects all your artifacts, non-creature artifacts, when Guardian Beast is untapped. I had Ken Meyer Jr. sign this one in purple to match the artwork. Back in 2019, before the pandemic, we have Hasran Ogress by Daniel Frazier. I would call this as full signature again in a medium Sharpie. The light dark variant on this one is in the text box. That's a dark 2 and a lighter 2. So those are the 2 copies of Hasran Ogress. Her Jackal by Drew Tucker, signed in red to match the border. We have If Biff Ifrit, which signed by Jesper Meerfors in 2016. This was originally printed in Arabian Nights, was reprinted incorrectly and revised. So if you pulled a Serendib Ifrit, I believe, and revised, it had this artwork. So a lot of people will play the revised Serendibs with the blue casting cost. Is a little cheaper than Serendib. This is Island Fish Gisconius with the dark mana symbol up top, signed by Jesper in 1996. Another vintage signature on that card. We have Island of Whack Whack, signed by Doug Schuler in a medium Sharpie. Another powerful land card. I think they inspired the Whack Whack channel, which is fun to watch. Jander's Ring by Dan Frazier, and Jander's Saddlebags by Damian Willick. We have Jeweled Bird to go with our bird sounds. This one is signed in purple by Amy Weber. Matches the purple artwork. Jihad by Brian Snowdy. The beautiful artwork with the soldiers and the horses in there. This is a fun one. This is a Junun Ifrit, signed by Christopher Rush, and it's a vintage signature. Christopher Rush's signature is really small, right under the art box. If you have any card signed by Christopher Rush in that location, chances are they're pretty vintage, maybe signed back in 93, 94 that way. Then you expand to his more common signature across the text box. We have a really nice copy of Juzam Jijin, signed by Mark Tedden. I took this one to GP Vegas in 2019, had him sign it and finish. That was one of the last cards I needed signed for the set. Cabal Ghoul, signed by Doug Schuler with a smaller signature for his variation. We have Occur date, signed by Ken Mayer Jr. in '95. This could be like a really fine point marker or even a ballpoint, I think. Maybe ballpoint if there's a little impression on the card. I think back in the day signing wasn't a very popular thing, so they just signed with whatever they had available at the time. Maybe not at a convention, maybe just at an event or a store. We have 2 copies of Mark Poole's signature. This one on a King Solomon and a Library of Alexandria. When Mark signs a ton of cards, he usually uses the medium Sharpie and just cranks them out like that. At the same event, I had him sign this one a little more slowly, just so that he would have it in the text box and not over all the text. But the Library of Alexandria is probably the most expensive card in the set. It is a really powerful land that lets you draw an extra card if you have 7 cards in your hand. Also provides 1 colorless mana if you don't have 7 cards, so it's a very versatile card. Used quite a bit in Old School. We have Magnetic Mountain, signed by Susan Van Camp in gold. A Merchant Ship, signed by Tom Vannerstrand. I think this is his only card in this set, so you need to get Tom's signature on this Merchant Ship. Another Christopher Rush signature on Metamorphosis. Midjay Dejin, I think Midjay is an anagram of Jamie, another friend of Richard Garfield, and this one is signed in ballpoint pen by Susan Van Camp, so another vintage Magic signature. We have Moorish Cavalry, both variants. We have the dark and the light common variant, and they're both signed by Damien. Matching signatures on that. A Mountain by Douglas Schuler. This was the 3rd Mountain that did not appear in Alpha, but it was added to the beta set. But it does have the scimitar, kind of greenish background on that one. It's a beautiful card. There are 2 NAFs AFs by Christopher Rush. This has the darker mana symbol down in the text box, and this one has the lighter mana symbol. Again, both signed by Chris with matching signatures. We have an Oasis, signed by Brian Snowdy in 2017. Old Man of the Sea, Rudy's favorite card, signed by Susan Van Camp in silver along the side. She typically signs either here or at the bottom. We have 2 Oubliettes, signed by Douglas Schuler. This one is the darker symbol, the lighter symbol. This card was also reprinted recently. 2 Pleiades by Mark Poole with matching signatures. This one's a little darker, but this one has the dark mana symbol, light mana symbol. Pyramids, important card for this set. This one is signed by Amy Weber, fine point in black. Repentant Blacksmith. This one gives you protection from red, so I had Drew Tucker sign it in shadow signature, black and red, just for some fun. Ring of Ma'ruf by Daniel Fraser in his smaller pen signature. Ring lets you pull cards from outside of the game into your current match. We have a pair of Rook Eggs by Christopher Rush. This one has a darker mana symbol. This one has a lighter mana symbol. This signature is a little bit older. You can tell by the bigger C and the longer arc on the R there, but they're very similar. I like that they kind of match and they're close to the same size. This is Sandals of Abdallah by Daniel Fraser. These sandals are signed in a medium black Sharpie. And then we have Sandstorm by Brian Snowdy, 2017. We have two Dijin, well, we have two Serendibs. We have one Serendib Dijin signed by Anson Maddox in 2008. We have a Serendib Efreet signed by Anson in fine point Sharpie. I like that they kind of match as well. There's a Shahrazad. There's a really nice card by Kaja Foglio, signed in silver down here at the bottom. She signed a lot of cards in silver, especially her Mishra's workshops and Mishra's factories. This lets you create another game inside of a game and affects the outcome of the first game. Sinbad, Julie Barrow. We have Singing Tree by Rob Alexander in a thinner fine point Sharpie. We have Sorceress Queen. Has some beautiful artwork, vintage artwork by Kaja Foglio. We have two Stone Throwing Devils. These have a light and dark variation. It's usually noticeable in the mana symbol. So like the colorless mana symbols in the other sets, this one is a darker symbol, and this Swamp black mana symbol is a little bit lighter, but they were both signed by Ken Mayer Jr. in 2018. And we got Unstable Mutation by Douglas Schuler. The hardest card to find signed by far is War Elephant, signed by Kristen Bishop here. She only did one card in the set. Actually, she only did one card in Magic ever, and it was this beautiful War Elephant that she did for Arabian Nights. She was a friend of Jesper Meerfors, the art director at the time, and I think this was just a small project that she did, and she had no interest in doing more than this, so she is very hard to find signed. She doesn't really go to Magic events or do anything related to Magic, so getting her signature is really hard. This card I bought graded from Beckett JSA. It was a 93 War Elephant. It's a dark variant, and it was signed by Kristen Bishop, mint 9. The signature also got a 9, but she signed it in a very fine ballpoint or permanent pen. Looks beautiful on there. It also matches the other War Elephant that I have. This is the light variant. You can tell by the colorless mana symbol. 3 is lighter. I really like that these two signatures are identical, pretty close. She may have signed them at the same session. They look very, very matching, which is perfect for set collectors. Then we have two Wailuli Wolves, which is also an anagram for Lily Wu, which was Richard Garfield's first or second wife. There is a light and a dark variant on the mana symbols. These ones were signed by Susan Van Camp in gold and in silver, so showcasing some different variations of signatures as well. And the last card in the set is Edwin Efreet. Edwin is a anagram for Wendy, another friend of Richard Garfield's. This one was signed by Drew Tucker in red down at the bottom. So that's the complete signed Arabian Nights set. It's 93 cards if you count both versions of the Desert. And then these binders are really nice. This is a Dex Protect binder, and it holds 160 cards. So in the last few pages, I have a few extra signed cards from the Arabian Nights set. I started by collecting multiple copies of the unsigned cards, and I acquired a few signed cards along the way, had artists sign cards along the way, and then was left with a few extra copies. So these Army of Allahs, there are 2 dark versions and a light version. Again, you can see the difference between the dark mana symbol, the light mana symbol. Also some variations in Brian Snowdy signatures. In this one in black with his initials and the date, 2015. And sometimes he just signed his initials, BS, with his little smiley face. So these two match. This is an extra one. I have a 4th edition War Elephant that's signed by Kristen Bishop in gold here. And you can see how that signature matches the Arabian Nights light variant one. Those are her signatures. The gold, I think, is beautiful because it matches the artwork in the background. Her signature is very sought after, so even in 4th edition, it's a pretty special card. We have a couple Dandans signed by Drew Tucker in blue to match the card art. We have a couple Desert Nomads signed by Christopher Rush. These two are probably a little older, signed at the same time, and this is a little newer, signed at the same time. That match his Flying Men signature here. We have a couple Hasran Ogresses, dark and light variants, Dan Frazier. We have a playset of Her Jackals in red by Drew Tucker. And then we have a few extra Kurt Apes. I was collecting this card pretty heavily in the mid-decade there. These were signed in 2016. These were signed in 2017. These were signed in 2018, all in black. 2019, so Ken Mayer Jr. signed a lot. I tried to catch him at every show I went to. I also did a set in red, these Kurt Apes in red and green. You can see what a green signature looks like. Kind of matches the trees in the forest. I have another copy of Merchant Ship by Tom Vanderstrand. This one was signed on the right side of the card. The other card in this set, he was signed at the bottom. It's a little nicer condition, but those are the two variations of his signature. An extra Sinbad by Julie Barrow. Some Pieties by Mark Poole. Some more Devils by Ken Mayer Jr. Unstable Mutation. An extra Rook Egg by Chris Rush. And an extra by Lily Wolf by Susan Van Camp. And some revised and 5th edition, or 4th edition, revised and 4th edition Desert Twisters by Susan Van Camp in white border, but tough signature to get. So that is the Arabian Nights sign set. I appreciate you watching. If that was helpful, let me know in the comments. I know there's a lot of other set collectors out there trying to complete this set. I recommend just trying to get all of the cards. Do it, collect what you like. Eventually, it's a journey. You'll have a complete set before too long, and then you can appreciate it just by looking at it. So that's the set. Let me know. I feel like these nostalgic videos are a little more interesting to watch on YouTube than the unboxing videos, but I'll continue to do both. So if you have any questions about the Arabian Nights set, I'm happy to advise on that as well. It's a fun set to collect. It's a small set. It's one of the smallest sets, so it's manageable, and I hope that gives you some inspiration for the week to do what you love. Collect what you like. Be nice to the artists. They're great individuals. Put a lot of effort into the game. They made it what it is. It's great to appreciate it. And I thank everyone for watching. I hope you have a very calm and successful week out there. Be nice to each other, and we'll see you next time. Thanks again.